If you don't remember this message right here, those skills are not going to happen because you're going to let your nervousness, your anxiety, your stress stop you. Take out a piece of paper, all right? Or pull out your phone if you want to write it down. I'm going to challenge you to write some things down here, okay, for a second. I'm not going to ask you to stand up and share them. I'm not going to ask you to even talk about them with your spouse or the person that you brought today unless you feel like it. So this is for you, so be honest, because it's only going to hurt you if you're not honest, okay? So on this piece of paper, write down tasks or activities that stress you out or make you nervous, things that give you butterflies in your stomach, things that you tend to push off, things that you tend to procrastinate about, things that you fear doing, business related, let's keep this a business seminar. Maybe it's things like making high-level sales calls. Maybe it's approaching large event opportunities. Maybe it's dealing with or correcting employees. Maybe it's just hiring employees in general. I don't know what these things are that make you nervous, but things make you nervous, okay? So write some of those down. Before I really jump in and start my presentation, I'm going to be vulnerable and honest with you for a minute. I'm 45 years old. And over the course of my life, I've consistently dealt with stress. Luca leaving was a really bad moment for me. And if you guys are anywhere near Dallas, it's just been bad, okay? But I've consistently dealt with stress, anxiety, fear, and mild depression many, many times. And I have allowed it on more times than I can count to slow me down or to hold me back or to keep me from reaching my full potential. So I'm being vulnerable with you guys today about this because it has been crippling to me, and I don't want it to be crippling to you, but I bet you a bunch of you in this room, if you were honest with yourself, would say these things, fear, stress, anxiety, and potentially depression, have crippled you or slowed you down from your full potential, right? So I think it's important. Now, here's the disclaimer. I am not a doctor. I'm not a therapist. I am just another entrepreneur just like you. We're not going to talk about anything serious today like medications or, significant treatments. If you suffer, I promise, if you suffer from any of these on a high level where they're truly crippling, especially the depression one, go get help. You are not alone. Find somebody that can help you, a therapist, a doctor, something. You have to. It's not 1960 anymore. We all know that this is a true medical condition, and this medical condition could keep you from living a successful, happy life and being successful in business. So go take care of it. Okay, serious enough for a minute? Are you all ready to move forward? Okay, one day when I was running my rental business, everything went wrong. Who's been there? Okay. And I remember that evening, I was out to dinner with my wife, and I was just complaining. I was upset. I was not happy. I was very, very frustrated, okay? And I guess I was being loud enough or something because the waiter came up to me, and he looked at me and he said, man, you're really worked up, right? And I was not in a great mood, so I looked at him. I was like, what, dude? I just looked at him sternly. And he said, man, when I feel that way, I looked down at this tattoo, and he had this tattoo on his arm, and it was some sort of weird Sanskrit language. And I was just like, okay. And he goes on to say, this means there is no tiger. And when I get all worked up and start blowing things out of proportion, I look down at this and I realize that there is no tiger, that almost everything that I face today is not life-threatening. Okay? And it's a challenge, it's a thing that can be managed. And I remind myself that there's no tiger lurking around the corner ready to take my life or to kill me. Okay? Now, this isn't a true story. To be honest with you, I heard it told a little bit different on TikTok, and it motivated me, got me excited. But I wanted to tell it to you in a first-person account because I think that you would relate to it better, and you might remember it a little bit better. But also because it's the name of my presentation. There is no tiger. And so throughout this presentation, many times I'm going to refer back to this saying, and when I do, what I want you to remember is, there's no tiger lurking around the corner ready to take your life. Whatever this particular thing is that making you stressed or nervous, these things that you wrote down, I would venture to bet that 98% of all of them are manageable, are doable, can be done, and are not going to take your life, kill you, make you, you don't need to be that overwhelmed with it. So, you're going to hear "there is no tiger" a bunch of times. Now, picture this. Let's use your imaginations for a minute. Will you please play along with me? Let's pretend that your heart rate is beating at 160 beats per minute. You're sweating profusely. Your face is turning red, and all your muscles are tightening up. Your whole body is reacting to something. Okay? Can you picture this? Now, imagine it's the middle of the night, and you just woke up from a dead sleep with all these symptoms. What are you thinking? What are you thinking? Okay? You're probably thinking, I'm gonna die. I need to get to the hospital. I'm having a heart attack. If this was tonight, you'd say, screw Matt, there's a tiger here. And in that case, your life would truly be in danger, wouldn't it? I mean, this is a serious situation, okay? But let's change it just a little bit. Let's say that the symptoms are the same. Your heart's still beating at the same 160 beats per minute. You're sweating profusely. Your face is turning red. And your muscles are tightening up. But instead of waking up in the middle of the night, now you're turning the final corner on a 3-mile run. You're about to cross the finish line. You're about to get to the end. Suddenly, those symptoms, those signals that your body are giving you, they're not a crisis anymore. They're progress. They're your body working exactly as it should be, right? You can see the difference, right? Your body sends the same signals. It's how you interpret them. The difference is your situation. So, I know those symptoms are extreme, but the point is, your body tries to communicate to you with symptoms or signals, but if you don't know the context, often you interpret your body's own signals to you. And that's exactly what happens to me in business. Before key events, like sales calls, business meetings, talking in front of people, I start to have fear, anxiety. I start to have nerves. And those signals are coming through my body. But they're not signals that something's wrong. Okay? They're just signals that something is happening, that I'm about to step into something important for myself or for my business. And because I'm about to step into something that's important, my body is sending these signals to me. And so if you can learn to recognize those feelings for what they are, not crisis, but actually a call to action, you can stop seeing these signals of fear and anxiety as a reason to stop and start seeing them as a call to action that will fuel you forward. So, back in high school, I was the quarterback of my high school team. This is not an actual shot. Okay? And I don't say that to brag, by the way. I do know that you're looking at me saying, you're 5'9", Matt, and you're not very big. I do know that, and I wasn't big back then either. I was fairly quick, and I could definitely throw the ball, but I was small. But I'm in Texas. And in Texas, you might have heard high school football is kind of a big deal. Kind of a really big deal. So being the quarterback of your high school team is kind of a big deal. And it's kind of stress-inducing as well. So, throughout the day on Fridays during the team meetings, classes, and then walkthroughs, my nerves would build. I'd have intense butterflies. I'd have to use the restroom a lot of times. And by the time we got to stretching on the field, this nervous energy was absolutely peaking. And then when the national anthem would play, it would be ridiculous, it would just be ridiculously going on. It's not comfortable. But I'm the leader, right? So as the leader, I have to be tough. I have to stand there as, nothing is going wrong. But internally, I'm freaking out. It's a challenge, right? And maybe you've been in that situation, and maybe it's not been that story, but it's some other story. I hope that relates to somebody. But here's the thing. Once the game began, something would shift. Calling that first play in the huddle would begin to settle me down, get me focused. But the thing that always got me ready to play was taking my very first hit on the field. And it didn't matter whether I just got shoved around or knocked down or a full-on sack or blown up, it didn't matter. That first hit that first hit would change all my nervous energy and focus and adrenaline, and it would help me just focus on the game. And from that minute, I was locked in, ready to play my first game. But I had to get that first hit out of the way. So Drew Brees once said, sorry, scroll too far. Drew Brees once said, nervousness before a game is a good thing because it means you care. He talked about that nervous energy as not something to be feared, but something to be harnessed. You see, he's a high performer, and high performers have that mindset. So I'm going to repeat it again. A high performer is going to have the mindset that nervous energy isn't something to be feared, it's something to be harnessed. Now, think about making a big sales call. For me, at least, that same buildup happens. I have those pre-call nerves. I have those butterflies as I prepare. Maybe for you, it is for me, I'll be sitting in the parking lot, trying to psych myself up before walking into a business. Maybe you're just staring at a phone about to dial a prospect. Your body knows that you're about to do something important, and it also knows that the outcome isn't completely certain. So for those reasons, you're probably going to show signs of stress and nervousness. Even though there is no tiger, you are in no danger. Your body can't tell the difference, but your mind can. So you have to think about this situation and change the perspective and say, this nervous energy is a good thing that I can harness. There is no tiger. And you see, that moment, sitting in the car, that moment about the dialing, is a breaking point. It's the moment that separates the low performers from the high performers. You see, the low performers will stare at that phone, but they'll never hit dial. They'll say, I'm going to do it tomorrow. Then tomorrow turns into next week, and next week turns into never. That low performer is going to sit in the car and come up with a reason or an excuse or something else that needs to get done today. And then they drive over there and they do that other thing, but they don't get out of the car and they don't go make that sales call. And you see, in this breaking point moment, it is the difference between a low performer and a high performer. The low performer is going to shut down. It's going to allow that nervous energy to freeze them. But you have to remind yourself there is no tiger. I got myself confused for a half second, but I'm back on track. I apologize. Your body is walking like it's walking into a life or death situation. But let's be real. There's no tiger lurking behind the door waiting to pounce on you. This is not a survival moment. You're just going in to have a conversation with a human being. Just a human being. All of you are human beings. You're not actually that scary. But your body can tell you otherwise. Also, high performers, on the other hand, the ones who win in business, often they have the same fears and anxieties and the same symptoms. I would like to think, based on my track record at both Fastenal and then building these companies, that I tend to be a high performer. But I can attest that even as a high performer, I get all of these symptoms. But high performers know, I know, that this nervousness, this fear, this anxiety is an illusion. It's not real. I know that if I can just take the first step, if I can just introduce myself, if I can just shake somebody's hand and start talking to them, say that first line, that the energy is going to shift, that my nervousness is going to transform into focus, just like taking that first hit on the football field. And once I'm engaged, I'm in the game. And you can't win the game if you're not in the game. So you got to get in the game, give yourself a chance to win. So, hopefully I've motivated you in some sort of way, but let's make it practical. How can we work through these sort of things? Let's actually talk about a few skill sets that maybe you can do it. If this is meaningful to you in any way, maybe write some of these things down. First one that I want to talk about is have a pre-call routine. Just like athletes have pre-call rituals, successful people should have pre-call routines. Whether it's listening to a pump-up song in the truck, researching your opportunity fully, visualizing your success, or rehearsing key talking points, have a routine that will help shift your mindset into action. Over the years, I've done many of these things. I've absolutely played loud music in the car and sang along to try to calm some nervous energy while I'm about to go up to make a sales call. I guess I didn't really talk about this, but I was a sales manager at Fastenal for 17 years, over 16 locations and 90 employees, and I made thousands of sales calls. So and it doesn't ever really go away. So you gotta get used to it. So I've played the loud music. I've done a lot of research. I've even Facebook stalked people, like if I'm about to have a big call with you, like I'm gonna see what's on your Facebook. Maybe there's something we can relate to, and that will be that icebreaker or whatnot. That's all part of me getting ready to go into that call. But my absolute favorite pregame ritual is talking to myself. I will pretend to have a conversation with the customer. I will ask myself all the hard questions I think that they're going to ask me. I will think of any objection that they might have, and I will come up with an answer, and I will say it out loud while I'm driving down the road. I've been known to even record it on my phone and play it back to myself. And then I edit it. I do it a different way. I do it a different way until I'm very, very comfortable. I've done this exact speech for myself probably 12 times since I wrote it the last 2 weeks because I wanted to be comfortable, and I've made many, many changes to it. I normally like to just get up and talk, but because it's such a sensitive subject, I really am trying to stay on task this time. So whatever that is for you, whatever works for you, come up with a pregame ritual that can help you move into action. The next one is, number 2, is set micro commitments and micro goals for yourself. They're a little bit different, and I'm going to break them down. Instead of thinking about the entire sales call, or in my case today, like the entire speech, break it down into small, manageable steps. Just commit to getting out of the car, then just commit to walking up to the front door, then commit to shaking their hand and saying the first sentence. If you can commit to yourself to get that far, momentum will take you the rest of the way. I promise you, if you've gotten into the building and shaken their hand and you're talking to them, you're probably not going to go squealing running out the door. You're probably going to finish it, okay? All right, micro goals, on the other hand, are a little bit different. This is something you should take the time to write down during your pre-call routine. This is where you set a few goals for the call that aren't like land the entire business. Because let's be honest, if your goal for every single call is to land all the business, you're going to be disappointed a lot of times. Often, it's more realistic to set a couple like micro goals along the way. Obviously, the final goal is to land the business, but it's different things. So let me just name a few of these, what these could be. Maybe the micro goal is to learn who the real contact is. How often have you thought you were walking in to talk to the decision maker, and it turns out that wasn't the decision maker? So maybe micro goal is just to make sure I have the right contact, and if not, to find out who that is. Maybe another micro goal could be just to learn about the business as a whole. First off, you need to know who the decision maker is. Second, who does the booking, the scheduling, all the things? Do I need to be on an approved vendor list? If so, how do I get on that approved vendor list? How many events do they have a year? Is there a specific piece of equipment that I either have or I don't have that I need to land this business moving forward? I know you needed tents for a recent one, right? Is there particular insurance requirements that are needed? Do I have them? Do I need to get them? And maybe any other sort of requirements that might need. If you walked out of a sales call knowing all those things that you didn't prior know, that's a pretty successful call, right? Another micro goal might be just to get a solid reason to come back and do another in-person call. Personally, I don't believe a follow-up email or a phone call is any sort of significant advance. If they say, oh, email me, that's a pretty good deflection. But if you say, next Tuesday at 9 a.m., I'm coming back to do this, to bring you that, to show you this, to give you an example, that is a much better thing. So if you meet these micro goals, your call can be successful with the caveat that you do something with it. If you go in there and you learn all this information and you go back and you never follow up, you didn't achieve anything. So you got to do something with it. Number 3, reframing the fear. As we've established, the symptoms of nervousness or excitement that you produce in your body seem the same. Fear and excitement seem the same. You have the same nervous energy. It depends on how you label it. So, reframe the fear. Stop telling yourself, I'm scared. Ooh, I'm not ready. I need to slow down. I need to stall. I need to stop. Stop telling yourself that. It's so easy to be looking for excuses not to do things. Instead, go, oh, I'm feeling those butterflies today. I must have something important in my business coming up. I better be getting psyched. I better be getting ready. I'm ready. Let's go. Start telling yourself, there's no tiger. Let's go. You see, if you reframe that fear from something that's going to cripple you into something that's going to cause you to act, if you start realizing that it's just energy, but it's exciting, it's going to move you forward and propel you on towards the win instead of stalling you out. All right, number 4. Have a first hit mentality. I talked about it in football. I'm bringing it back. Just like in football, that nervous energy for me settled after I took that first hit. And I think that happens for a lot of people. So go into every sales call, every meeting looking for that first hit moment. Is it a quick laugh? Is it a handshake? Is it a moment of connection from that thing you figured out on Facebook? Whatever that first hit is that takes your nervous energy, settles you, and moves you into the call. Start remembering what that is. Okay? Maybe make that a micro goal. Get to the point of that first hit moment. Start recording what those are so that now that you're making calls, you go, okay, if I can just get to about minute 4, when I tell this joke, then I'm going to be in and it's all going to calm down. Or, whatever it is. And then you can psych yourself up to make it to that point. Maybe write those down, like I said, and then that gives you a micro goal to check off early into a sales call. The last of these 5 practical things I think you can do is to have a mindset and a paradigm shift. Tell yourself, I'm here to help, I'm not here to sell. Okay? Many people hesitate because they feel like they're bothering the customer. They don't want to be that pushy telemarketer or that door-to-door salesperson or that used car salesman. They've always hated that person and they don't want to do it, so you tell yourself, I'm not a salesperson. I'm not a salesperson. Okay? You own a business, you're a salesperson. Okay? But if you can teach yourself, if you can switch your mindset that you're not there to take, you're there to give, it becomes a lot easier because now you're here to give them something, not to just take their time. And if you truly believe that, the confidence will come naturally. Remember this, if you're talking to the right person, they already have an event to plan, they just need your help to make it spectacular. If you're talking to the right person, they already have an event to plan. They just need your help to make it spectacular. So my final thought, wrapping this up. While in modern American life, there is almost never a serious, life-threatening event looming around the corner, your body is still wired for survival from way back. And when it senses uncertainty, it tries to convince you that there is danger ahead, and it tries to make you be cautious and slow down. This used to be super important because there really was tigers lurking behind things and you could die from all sorts of stuff. But it's just not that important anymore. It actually can become a problem these days. So that's why when you feel the rush of nerves before a big moment, you have to remind yourself there is no tiger. You're not fighting for your life, but you are fighting for your future. And if you let that fear stop you from taking that first step, you're never going to reach your full potential. So we can teach you all the skills today. These guys can come and they can teach you skills all day. If you don't remember this message right here, those skills are not going to happen because you're going to let your nervousness, your anxiety, your stress stop you.